What's up, music makers? It's Luke from Sojourner Tracks, and I'm here with my first versus video, Melodyne versus Flex Pitch. And for those of you who have followed the channel for any amount of time, you know that I am a firm believer that Logic provides you with all of the tools that you need to make amazing music at home, out of the box. So why would I go out and spend money on third-party software? So I actually went out and bought the Melodyne Assistant version, which retails for $299. I think I got it on sale for a little bit less than that, but that's still more than the price of Logic Pro. Why would I do that? Is Flex Pitch unusable? So today I thought we'd stack them up against each other. So I'm gonna give myself 5 minutes with Melodyne, 5 minutes with Flex Pitch, same audio clip, and we'll see what the results are. Stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to give you my ratings in 4 categories. The first being the toolkit. So what's available to you and how well does it work? Second, the algorithms. So how does the pitch tracking actually function? Is it good? Are you likely to get any artifacts or things like that? What about the interface? Is it easy to use? Is it easy to incorporate into your workflow? And then fourth will be just the test of our ears. Which clip sounded best? Let's get to it. So I have an old song here with vocals that need to be tuned, and I'm just going to play you the passage that we're going to be working on.
The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain, waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know is exactly where I've been. Am I still asleep?
Okay, gross. Let's fix those. So the first thing is to pull up Flex Pitch. If you don't know, is enable the flex options up here. And then from the drop-down menu, Flex Pitch at the very top, it's going to analyze it. And then if you double click on this, we can work on it in the editor window, which is much nicer. But you also have to show the flex options up here. So it shows up on the piano roll, which is really nice. You can see where everything is. And I'm just going to quickly go through the interface and the tools before I start the timer and get working. So like I said, they all the vowel sounds, which is what Flex Pitch is looking for in a vocal, show up as these little bars. And around each bar is 6 dots, which are your basic tools. So you have a pitch drift up and down, and a pitch drift up and down on this end. You have fine pitch here for centering the note value. You also have formant shift, which we won't get into. You have vibrato, and also you have your gain tool. So you can actually do clip gain right in here, which is really nice. And then if you double click on a note, it will center the pitch. So those are your basic tools. Also up here, I will put the scissors tool as my command tool so that you can, chop up notes if you need to. So with that, we will get started.
The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain.
So I'm just going to go through first and sort of center some of these notes that I think sound the worst.
The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Waking up. Waking up in. Waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know is behind the steering wheel, blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know wheel, and all I know. And all I know is exactly. All I know is exactly where. All I know is exactly where I've been. Exactly where I've been. where I've been. Where I've been. Am I still asleep? The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know is exactly where I've been. Am I still asleep? Asleep. Exactly where I've been. Exactly where I've been. The highway disappeared. 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 The highway disappeared in the pitch black. The pitch black pouring rain. Black pouring rain. Pouring rain. Waking up in a blur. Waking up in a blur behind the steering. In a blur behind the steering wheel. Steering wheel, and all I steering wheel, and all steering wheel, and all I know is all I know is exact. All I know is exactly where I've been.
And with that, I guess I'm all done. Let's play it through once with the backing track and then once with it soloed.
The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know is exactly where I've been. Am I still asleep? The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know is exactly where I've been. Am I still asleep?
So clearly with more time, I probably could have done better, but sometimes actually the longer you work on stuff like this, the worse it gets, because as you can see, there are artifacts that are starting to be introduced and so on. So before I get ahead of myself, let's move on to Melodyne. Okay, for Melodyne, all you have to do is go over to your plugins and bring up Melodyne ARA, which if you've used Melodyne in the past, this is a more integrated version of Melodyne that allows it to interface with Logic more seamlessly, so you don't have to do the transfer anymore. If I just hit spacebar with it on this track, it's going to import the audio off of that track.
The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain.
So now everything's imported, easy as you please. Similar look to flex pitch, where we've got all of the vowel sounds on these little blobs. These are a little bit more indicative of the actual gain structure of the waveform and all of that stuff. And like flex pitch, I'm just going to go over quickly what is available with tools and whatnot. So if you look here at these blobs and you click on one, you have your pitch, where your pitch is centered here. You can also do gain over here, so we can do gain adjustments the same way in Melodyne. We also have this sibilance balance. So if you see the back half of this note has all these hash marks running through it, this is actually a sibilant thing, so we can adjust the sibilance only, which is really cool. So if you've got a note that begins with like a harsh S sound or ends with a T or something like that, you can go in here and adjust only that sound, only that harshness, and you can pull it out of there. So that is a really cool feature. Have the same tools as flex pitch has. So if you look up here, this tool will center the notes with a double click, and we have a cutting tool here that we can cut notes apart if we need to. Also over here in this window is this is what flex pitch calls vibrato, so pitch modulation. This is the same thing, where it just kind of flattens the pitch out. And then you have your pitch drift. So this is going to adjust it from both ends at the same time and just kind of flatten where you may have falls and scoops and things like that. So with that being said, there are also some tools up here. You can make timing adjustments and things like that, which we didn't cover in flex pitch, and I'm not going to cover here, but essentially you can do sort of the same things, but for the sake of time, we will not get into that. So I'm going to start my clock.
The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring. The highway disappeared. The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Appeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Wait. In the pitch black pouring rain. Waking up in a blur. Been rain. Waking up in a blur. Been rain. Waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel. Waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel. And all I know, and all I know is exactly. And all I know is exactly where I've been. Is exactly where I've been. Am I been? Oh, is exactly where I've been. Am I still asleep? Am I still asleep? Am I still asleep? I thought the highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel. And all I know is no wheel. And all I know is no wheel. And all I know is exact. And all I know is exact. wheel, and all I know is exactly wheel, and all I know is exactly where I've been. Am I still asleep? Rain, waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel. Pouring rain, waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know is wheel, and all I know is wheel, and all I know is exactly where wheel, and all I know is exactly where I've been. Rain, waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know is exactly where I've been. Am I still asleep? Is exactly where I've been. Am I still asleep? I've been. Am I still asleep? Wheel, and all I know is exactly all I know is exactly where I've been. The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Waking up, the highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Waking up in a blur behind rain. Waking up in a blur behind the steering. Waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel. A blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know is exactly where wheel, and all I know is exactly where, and all I
So let's listen to it with the backing track, and then we will listen to it solo.
The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know is exactly where I've been. Am I still asleep?
Okay, and then with it soloed.
The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know is exactly where I've been. Am I still asleep?
And now let's compare the two. So I will go back to flex pitch.
The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know is exactly where I've been. Am I still asleep? I thought I caught a glimpse of you. The highway disappeared in the pitch black pouring rain. Waking up in a blur behind the steering wheel, and all I know is exactly where I've been. Am I still asleep?
So is flex pitch an unusable tool? I think the clear answer is absolutely not. If you don't feel the need to go out and spend $299 or more on Melodyne, then you already have a perfectly usable tool for tuning vocals in Logic Pro. But let's get to those 4 categories that I listed at the beginning of the video, and I will give you my personal ratings on both. But before we do, if you have been enjoying today's content, would you please hit that subscribe button? I would really appreciate it, and I am working weekly to bring you new content about Logic Pro. So number 1 was Toolkit. I gave Flex Pitch a 4 out of 5 and Melodyne a 5 out of 5. And although these toolkits are essentially the same thing in both what's available and in the function, I feel that Melodyne's toolbox is a little bit tighter in the way that it works, and also that sibilance tool really pushes it over the edge for me, because that will save you a ton of time using a de-esser or clip gain down the road. The second category was algorithm. I gave Logic a 2 out of 5 and Melodyne a 4 out of 5. And this is the one that basically sold Melodyne for me. As you heard while I was working, Logic, before I even started, had introduced some artifacts or inhuman type sounds to the clip. And as I started working, those got more and more noticeable. Now, some of that is operator error, but I was doing the same type of processes in Melodyne and not getting those results. So that is what sold Melodyne for me. That is a big one. If you're trying to be discreet with your tuning, that's going to give it away every single time. The third category was interface. I gave Flex Pitch a 3 out of 5, while Melodyne a 4 out of 5. And even though the Flex Pitch interface is literally built into Logic Pro, I feel like Melodyne works for me just a little bit better. So something about the piano roll, that whole editor interface, as far as tuning vocals, it just isn't as good as Melodyne's blob system, where you can see the waveform. It's just a little bit more clean and clear. It's very obvious what you're doing and how it's interacting with the actions that you're taking within the program. So the fourth category was just using our ears, hearing those two samples back to back. And the clear winner for me was Melodyne. I gave Flex Pitch a 3 out of 5 and Melodyne a 4 out of 5. For totals of Flex Pitch 3 out of 5, Melodyne 4.25 out of 5. Flex Pitch is totally capable of doing the job of tuning vocals, especially if you have a little bit of extra time to deal with some of those artifacts and really massage those difficult parts until they sound just right. Then you already have exactly what you need. For someone like me, where I'm dealing with clients and sort of probably a larger turnover of music that is coming through my studio, then spending the money just made sense from a time standpoint. I don't have the time to quote unquote do it right. I want to get it done quickly and for it to sound really good right out of the box. So what do you think? Is Flex Pitch working for you? Did I miss something? Is there some tricks that you know that you could share with the rest of us in the comments below? Or are you a Melodyne fan? Let me know, and I will see you in the next video.